Nigeria's fight against insecurity and the controversial move of depleting the country's excess crude account to fund the military's fight against security threats.
Uganda's tax on social media. Will President Museveni get his wish for a daily tax on mobile data use?
Thomas Mamfumo, the Zimbabwean activist musician, returns home 14 years after leaving the country for fear of being persecuted and continues his call for political activism. Africa 54 starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Africa 54. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by my colleague at the Voice of America in Washington.
Well, thanks a lot, Joke. I'm Vincent McCoy at our global headquarters in Washington, D.C. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with a look at the latest on how Nigeria is financing the purchase of military weapons. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
That's right. A recent move by the federal government of Nigeria to fund the acquisition of arms from the country's excess crude account drew wide criticism. But the Nigerian army and some leaders insist it's a necessary step to fortify the military's ability to tackle security threats. Channels Television's correspondent, Blessing Tuno, compiled this report.
Military hardware is just as important as manpower. But the recent acquisition of arms with funds from the nation's excess crude account has been a subject of debate. In addition to a good supply of ammunition, regular training is necessary to keep the soldiers battle ready. Officials of the Nigerian army, led by the Chief of Army Staff, assemble in Bauchi State for the 2018 Combat Arms Training Week. Playing host to the security personnel is the Bauchi State Governor. Themed, sustaining the capacity of combat arm to meet contemporary security challenges, the training exercise is also a time to assess ongoing military operations aimed at tackling security threats in parts of the country. The Chief of Army Staff highlights the importance of getting enough support to keep the country safe.
Security is a continuous situation that we must continue to evolve new techniques, new strategies and procedures to ensure that we tackle them. There is no society that will be 100% crime-free, and as such, we continue to evolve no matter what the situation is, that we are equipping, we are training, and we are also administering, to the needs of our troops to improve their morale.
For the state governor, equipping the armed forces is key to ensuring they stay ahead. He justifies the approval of funds from the nation's oil revenues.
I think just a one-line charge alone cannot do it. We have to think out of the box, and we have to support our armed forces. So far, they have been doing fantastically well for us, protecting the territorial integrity of the country and then participating in internal crisis.
To further boost the morale of officers, 8 blocks of residential quarters are commissioned at the Shadawanka barracks. This, the army leadership says, will improve the welfare of their families while they are on the battlefield.
Let's talk to security consultant Chidi Nwonu. He joins us from London. Chidi, clearly this is a matter of the government's policy direction. How far do you expect $1 billion to go with regard to equipping the military?
If the funds are used judiciously, then it should go some way to resolving Nigeria's equipment issues. But if I can flip the question slightly, I would ask if the biggest problem that Nigeria has is equipment, or whether it's organization and structure and planning. $1 billion can buy a lot of weapons, but if you have soldiers who are not trained in how to use those weapons, then it's a little bit pointless. If you have soldiers who have the weapons, but they do not have the spare parts, the ammunition, or the ability to get from one place to another, then those weapons are pointless. And if you have all of these things together, and you don't have officers who can plan and who can lead and who can organize, again, these things are pointless. So we can buy a lot of weapons with these things. A lot of people will make a lot of money out of it, but it doesn't answer the fundamental question as to whether it improves our combat effectiveness and our ability to resolve our security problems.
Well, if it's any consolation, this could change the narrative of Nigerian soldiers being poorly armed when they face criminal elements like Boko Haram. Now, what range of arms do you think is needed to be purchased to get the job done?
So that's an excellent question. I mean, the issue of soldiers being poorly armed, again, is a little bit of a misnomer, because you have to factor it against who exactly they're fighting or who exactly they're confronting. So Boko Haram themselves are armed with virtually the same type of weapon systems that the Nigerian army has. Assault rifles, artillery pieces, machine guns, light, heavy, medium machine guns, mortars, rocket-propelled grenades, etc. So the question is not necessarily the weapons, as I keep emphasizing, is how they are used. So if our soldiers are not properly organized to use these weapons, then it doesn't matter how much you buy. It's just expensive kits that isn't being used appropriately. So the key thing is, yes, soldiers will feel better if they have equipment, new equipment and better weapons and better arms and ammunition. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be able to defeat Boko Haram if they're still doing the same old things that they were doing with the old equipment. So as I keep emphasizing, we need to look further, look behind at how the weapons are used, how the soldiers are organized, and if what we're doing is fit for purpose.
Well, other countries invest heavily in advanced technology and in training. Where would you place Nigeria in the scheme of things?
So Nigeria is in a very strange kind of situation where we've actually jumped ahead of several other, world powers in our use of technology. So Nigeria is one of the very few countries in the world who have used armed UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, in combat. Nigeria has used the Chinese CH-3 UAV to conduct airstrikes upon enemy targets, as well as using it as an ISR kind of platform. So this is quite a big leap in technology, especially for a country of Nigeria. But at the same time, we've missed out on several steps. So one of the key problems that you will see in Nigeria with Nigerian forces is communication. How do Nigerian forces communicate? How do they relay information to each other? And also those ISR platforms that we bought, those advanced technology that we're using, to spot the enemy. How is that information disseminated down to, where it is now actionable? So you'll see things where the Nigerian forces will spot enemy forces somewhere, let's say in Damasak, and 24 hours later now you'll conduct an airstrike on them. There's no way of saying that what was there 24 hours ago is still there, and if the airstrike is effective. So what that informs, kind of tells you is that communications are poor and the ability to disseminate and utilize information is poor. So the focus needs to be very much less on buying high-tech equipment, which needs, a lot of maintenance, a lot of spare parts, a lot of foreign kind of expertise to keep it up and running, and focusing on training soldiers, training them in, very basic tactics of patrolling, of armor conservation, marksmanship, and then using these high-tech things that we've bought, these high-tech pieces of equipment, to supplement them. It's no point having high-tech equipment and then a position is being attacked or being overrun, and it's taking hours and hours before you can pass the information back, and then more hours before soldiers can get up there to assist or reinforce. So it's focusing on the fundamentals and then building up from there, which I think is that gap between where Nigeria is and some of the other capabilities that we have.
Security consultant Chidi Nwono, thank you so much for joining us on Africa 54 today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a look at what leaders are doing to protect the Lake Chad Basin, which provides food and water to millions.